Hey guys, today we're going to talk about Vite. Vite is a build tool that aims to provide faster and leaner development for modern web projects, as the documentation says. At the end of June 2022, Vite appeared in Laravel as a default front-end asset bundler. Since then, we've had the opportunity to take advantage of its amazing functionality. In my previous video, I explained how to set up a Docker environment for development using the Laravel framework. I'll share a link to the previous video in the description to this video. So if you have an example Laravel project from my previous video, you don't need to do it again. Let's assume we have a freshly installed Laravel project. Let's start our Docker containers. And let's go to the workspace terminal. As you can see, the database connection is already configured in the env file. Make sure that you run the PHP artisan migrate command and the npm install command. If we open the example.log page in a web browser, we can see the Laravel version at the bottom of the page. Okay, first of all, let's install the latest version of Vue. You also need to install the Vite.js plugin Vue package. Don't forget to import this plugin into vite-config.js with this line. And add Vue to this plugins array. Then create a new Vue which has name app_blade.php. Copy the contents of the welcome blade.php view and paste it into the app_blade.php. Remove all unnecessary content and leave only the basic HTML structure. Then place a div element with the ID app in the body. Place sample component inside. Then we need to use the Vite directive to include app.js and app.css. Now we can delete the file welcome_blade.php and change the index view in routes web.php. Then we will try to create a sample Vue component and see how Vite works. Create a components directory inside the JS directory and create a new file in it, which we named literally sample component. Create a template element and put a hello world header in it. Next, we will add some magic at the app.js file to create a Vue application instance in our Vue. Okay, now let's run the npm run build command, which will build the modules that Vite will load on the web page. We can reload the example.log page in our web browser and see the Hello World header. This scenario totally works in a production environment, but when we develop in a local environment, it's not so good, because we need to reload the pages after every change we make to our JS or CSS files. Vite has a solution to this problem, and it works amazingly fast. We can run the npm run dev command in the terminal, and Vite will start the development server. Do you remember the Vite directive we added to the app-blade.php view? Well, that directive changed the source of the loaded modules when we started the Vite development server. In development mode, Vite runs the WebSocket server, and if we change some files, they will be recompiled and loaded without having to reload the page. But what's the problem when we use Docker as development environment? As we can see, Vite tries to download modules at a local host IP address, and of course it's not available. So what are we doing to do about this problem? First of all, let's specify the correct app URL in the env file, because when we started the Vite development server, it reported that the app URL is localhost. Also, note that Vite uses port 5173 by default. So the solution to this problem is to configure the properties of the development server. Let's do this in our viteconfig.js file. The host will be all zeros, which will give us network connectivity to other Docker containers. The HMR means hot module replacement and has three properties. The first property is client port, which is the same as the default port that Vite uses to load modules on the page in development mode. The second property is host. The host will be the same as our app URL, which we recently configured, but without specifying the protocol. And the last property is the protocol. Its value will be WS, which means WebSocket. Then we need to specify the port property of the development server, and it will be the same as the client port property. Finally, let's add the watch property, which contains the use polling property with a value of true, as stated in the Vite documentation for Docker environments. That's it. The magic is here. Just reload the page again and enjoy. You don't need to do this every time you make a change to your files. For example, if we change the header in our component, we will see that it has changed on the web page as well. Vite only recompiled that component and loaded it onto the page as quickly as possible. Additionally, I want to consider the case where, for example, you work in a team and different developers have different hosts for the local web application. For this purpose, we will use a constant in our env file that we will pass to the viteconfig. Let's name that Vite app host and set its value to example.log. Now we need to add loadenv to this import and then change an export default a little bit. Let's transform it to the following construction. Then add this line to the beginning of the function. The process env object now contains all our configuration constants and we can access them. Let's change the value of the server HMR host property and make it dependent on the value of our newly added constant. Don't forget to restart the Vite development server after this change. If you found this video useful, please like it, subscribe to the channel and share it with your colleagues or friends. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, post in the comments and we'll be sure to discuss them. See you soon, bye!